What's up, Ranger fans? It's your boy Steve Cardenas, aka Rocky the Red Power Ranger, and you are listening to The Power Chamber. Morphin' time.
Alpha 37 online. Welcome, buddies, to the Power Chamber. Teleporting hosts now.
Hey, buddies. It's Morphin' time. Welcome to the Power Chamber live on YouTube. I am your host, the Hey Buddy Black Ranger, Rob Buck. Back at it again, second week in a row for our new interview segment. I have with me friend of the show, Alpha. If we can please fire off the guest beacon.
Affirmative. Sending out the guest beacon now.
But now he talks to me.
Nathan Marchand, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been sitting backstage while you've been ignoring me. I'm like, he's here, right? He knows I'm waiting, right? He knows the show starts at 6, right? Did he forget about his own show? I was so confused there.
Well, here's what happened. I sat down. I was like, okay, it's 5:58. I've got time to just stand up, stretch my legs a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the camera just shut off.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say a bit of it is on me. I've been doing on Sunday afternoons. Carl records the Ranger Review episodes for Patreon, and they just got to In Space. So I'm like blue wigs and black leather all the way, and so I've been showing up as much as possible. You know, I'd been on there before, but I would just pop in on occasion if they were getting to episodes that I was really interested in talking about. But now they're at In Space, and I may stick around for Lost Galaxy. I'm not sure, you know. And then when you get to Time Force, I'm like, I'm gonna have to be on for Time Force, and you know, I whatever. So they wrapped that up at about 5:30, and I still hadn't heard anything from you. So I'm like, what's going on? And you know, so I was just like, okay, I'll just hang out and talk with everybody for a little bit. And then I saw your message like, oh, gotta pop off, guys. And
that's great.
But when I said it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go, you know, I'm gonna go be interviewed for about the Rito episode again. And Carl, it was like, oh, is it Rob? I was like, yeah, it's Rob. And so he's aware that this is happening.
Awesome. Just real quick, just gotta do some maintenance real quick. Yeah, the episode they just dropped for the In Space reviews, the include the beryllium bug, which I am a high key fan of at the moment.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. There have been a couple of weeks where I couldn't make it. I'm trying to remember if that was one of my off weeks or not.
Yes, the beryllium bug. The first.
I've watched all the episodes just to keep up, and you know, like I need an excuse to watch In Space again. But and no, I did. Contrary to what was being said in a previous live stream for the Power Chamber, no, I did not purchase the Astronomer suit. It definitely got out of my price range after a while, because I think that thing sold. Last I saw, I think it was going for like $1,700, and I'm like, I can't justify that. And I don't know what the final tally was, because you can't look up anything for those anymore. So I don't know what all those things sold for. I do know that the most expensive item was in fact the Astro Megaship model, which I think went for $47,000. And I'm like, there are some rich Power Ranger fans in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I've thought about perusing the auction just to see what the ending prices were. And part of me just doesn't want to. Part of me just like, it's going to be sad. I'm gonna be like, oh, it only made that much.
Yeah. And so unless there are some Power Trip fans, or listeners with attitude, whatever, unless I have fans out there who are like, we're gonna buy Nate the Astronomer suit without him knowing it, I'm gonna be going without blue wigs and black leather. Well, black leather because it doesn't come with the blue wigs, but blue wigs sold separately. Yeah.
Oh, God. You go to pick it up
Actually,
and they're
Carl,
like, no,
when
it's
we
extra.
were what?
You go to pick it up and they're like, no, the wig's extra.
Yeah, I think wigs extra, but actually it was funny. Carl came, as I told Carl when we were after we had no, it was during the actual Ranger review. I said like they didn't have an Astronema figure until the Lightning collection. He's like, what, they didn't? It's like, yeah, they didn't, and then they made two of them, and it was the purple wig and the blue wig, and he's like, Carl came up with what would have been absolutely brilliant if there wasn't such weird reticence from toy company executives about, boys, not wanting to buy female action figures, which was they could have done like an Astronema Barbie doll where you could swap out the wigs constantly because she has like six or seven wigs over the course of the show. And like, that would have been amazing. If I was a toy executive, I'd be all over that.
Yeah. I mean, my dream Astronema figure for the Lightning collection would have been a 2-pack of the red wig from the end of In Space and her as Lost Galaxy Pink.
What was that? Sorry, I was trying to look at the chat. Sorry.
It would be red wig Astronema and Lost Galaxy Pink Corone.
Yeah, which I actually would. I think they did make a Lost Galaxy Pink Lightning collection figure, and what I think they should have done is it should have came with two heads.
Yeah,
two civilian heads in case, but I think they made it the Kendricks, which I'm fine with. But I'm like, it would have been interesting if they had done that. What I was really thinking they were going to do, because Hasbro's a dastardly capitalist company like this, is they just would have reissued the figure with a different civilian head. It would have been the exact same thing, but which they're not beyond doing. I think there are two In Space Blue Rangers. Technically, it just depends on if you want him with a Galaxy Glider or if you want him in a 2-pack with Psycho Silver.
Right. Wait, I'm missing the girls and Zane, but I have the guys otherwise of In Space.
I have, in my particular Lightning collection figures, I have two teams that are one short of being complete. Ironically, one is In Space. I'm just missing TJ, so I just need to get a TJ. I don't care which one at this point. I'm leaning toward the one that comes with the Psycho Silver, because that'll be the only Psycho Ranger I can get, because I missed out on getting the 5-pack before, because when I was thinking like maybe I should get that. That was like 5 seconds after the price for it doubled, as it was an Amazon exclusive, or and I am missing Trini or Mighty Morphin. And Trini was only available, I think, until they did the anniversary versions last year. Trini was only available in a 2-pack with Scorpina, which I'm fine with getting. What was confusing, and I hope I don't jinx myself here, what was confusing was that had actually kind of doubled in price there for a while, but I have been finding it like back down at retail prices again. I'm like, what? Maybe I should just buy it to be safe at this point.
Well, speaking of retail prices with the Lightning collection, the newest addition to the team.
Yeah, I wish I could get that one, but anything JDF is stupid expensive now.
Yeah, I will say the packaging, I'm not a fan of. It's an instant open, because this was when Hasbro was doing the windowless
closed back. Yeah,
the plastic free.
They got so much pushback for that. Actually,
give
me a second here, since we're doing show and tell with toys, and I gotta keep it at least kind of on topic for tonight. Hold on.
There's a commotion. Stuff is being knocked over. So
all right. So I was I'll tell this story really quick. I was over at a local convention. It was, believe it or not, it was a Transformers convention. It was BotCon, but there were sellers in there selling, stuff that wasn't just Transformers. And I found this at one of the shops. I happened to, and then I just like, he saw me eyeballing it, and he's like, "I'll cut you a deal on it." I was like, "Well, you should, because I play this character." And he's like, "What you do?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm in an audio drama. I am this guy, but I now own
A Bandai Rito.
the Bandai Rito, which I found out that there's actually 2 different packagings for this figure, and from what I can tell on eBay, this is the more expensive one. Because there's one, this just says like, it's like Mighty Morphin, Evil Space Alien. There's another one with different packaging that's actually branded for Zeo. And that one's cheaper than this by about 50% online for some odd reason. And here's Rob. I have to find it. I have to find it. What I want to do, though. Oh my
God, there is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so he cut me a deal on this one, which made me kind of happy, because I want to get figures of all of my Scyther characters and then put them on a little shelf together and put a label on it right out there on the shelf that says my Scyther characters. Yeah. But, here's the thing. If I'm going to do that, is I'm not taking this thing out of the box. Okay. I'm not. So what I'm probably going to do is buy another one of these complete, but it's loose, just so I could do that, because much to my chagrin, no Rito Lightning Collection figure. I'm a little angry, but here's the thing that's stupid. Okay. So there's that old Bandai. There's only ever, as far as I can tell, one other official Rito action figure, and he never got into the Lightning Collection, but he did get into Super 7.
Yeah.
So I have both of the Rito figures. I'm just going to have to get a second one now, unless they decide to surprise everybody and, put out, like Playmates decides to make a Rito figure. And if Playmates makes a Rito figure, I'm buying it. So, it's mandatory. I have the Super 7 and I have the Bandai. I should try to, unfortunately with this background, I don't have a good spot to put them where they're going to actually be visible, but I'll at least show them off a little bit here. So, but like I said, I'm probably going to get another one, and then I'm going to get I'm eyeballing the Marvel Legends Human Torch, because that looks like a nice figure. And there's a plethora of Deadpool figures to pick from. It's just more like, which one do you want? It's it's just which one. So I'll get all 3 of them and put them on a shelf together.
And within the year, Human Torch will be plenty easy to come by with the new Fantastic Four movie coming out.
Yeah, I have misgivings about that. I'm just like, Marvel, you learned nothing. You have learned nothing. Why? I just don't get me on a rant, Master, about this, because I'm just like, the Fantastic Four is not that hard. It is not that hard. You are making it more complicated than it needs to be. This is easy, but whatever.
Well, we're here for a spoiler-filled discussion talking about the story written by Mr. Marchand, spoken by Mr. Marchand, directed by Mr. Marchand.
Do you not see my my headline there? I Mel Gibson this crap.
Let's peel back the curtain. There we go. Origins Rito Bandora. An episode of the Power Rangers audio drama.
A special episode that apparently some people are flipping out over it. There was one of the weirdest comments that it got on YouTube was somebody said, "Please don't turn into Power Rangers unworthy and waste time and resources on special episodes."
I mean,
I'm like, my dude, this was my pet project. Other than me, asking some of the actors to give me lines, Carl was doing its own thing the entire time I was working on this.
Yeah, and I mean, it's completely different because with Unworthy, it's the same team, and they're like, "Oh, but we have an idea for this," and they sidestep my personal opinion. Whereas this, it's Carl has a story that he's telling, and you're like, "Hey, I got a take, here's a little interlude."
Yeah.
Give him more time with this episode.
Well, yeah, but I've been working on this, with no concrete deadline for a little while. And then kicked into don't want to say overdrive. Kicked into
You shifted
overdrive.
into turbo.
Shifted into turbo to crank it out a little bit faster, because I knew that there's going to be a larger gap than normal between Zio episodes, and even Carl's like, this would be a good stopgap. So that's why I really just shifted my creative energies to getting this done in a more timely fashion, which I was kind of wanting to have it out by the end of the year anyway. This just made it so like, okay, let's make it closer to before Thanksgiving than New Year's at this point.
Right. And with the ending, spoilers for Origins Rito.
I mean, yeah, it's you've got it plastered all over, over. So if people are here and they're going to hear spoilers, it's their own dang fault. But if so,
but also for the last episode of Zio that went up, Rito is the final kind of.
he was the cliffhanger. Like I think literally his name is the last word spoken in the episode.
So this is serendipity.
I'm a Terminator, mother trucker.
This is a perfect spot to put his origin.
Yeah,
story.
I would agree with you. It's also, Carl pointed out that it's also good because this is not a spoiler, and we talked about it in the previous episode, and I've made no secret of it. Archerina gets introduced in this. Yeah. And she's going to be showing up in the show proper. And I know Carl has told me that there will be, as the season progresses, there's going to be some follow-ups to what we see in this, or here in this is what I should say. Yeah. Funny enough, I guess, well, this isn't a spoiler because if you listen to the show, Rito mentions this happening. So I'm spoiling the regular show, not necessarily my episode, but we see how the whole thing with him turning Archerina into his armor and cutting off her head and things like that. But when I wrote the script, because Rito mentions like, oh yeah, you wondering where I put the head? Well, I'm never going to tell you. You can waste your life trying to figure it out. And and I didn't know when I wrote the script. I'm like, I don't even know where he put the head. That's a Carl problem. That's not my problem. That's a Carl problem. That's a Carl problem. Now, I have read the first draft of Zio episode 2, and I know where Rito put it now. And when I saw that, I actually put it in the one of the private chats I'm in for Scyther. It's like, oh, so that's where I put it. That I won't spoil.
Let's get into one of my favorite parts, the very beginning.
I was going to say I'm going to let you decide where we go with this.
So subtly, and I don't think anyone's talking about it, mainly because it's my show, so I'm going to talk about it. Rito gives Rita Dragon Sword.
No.
And apparently Rito killed Barai.
No. No, I get it. Rito's definitely an unreliable narrator, so keep that in mind. No, he said he found Barai the Dragon Warrior. It was done a bit as an Easter egg, but it has been established in the Scytherverse that the Zhu Rangers did exist. They were the previous wielders of the original power set. There's even some lip service given to that because I think it's episode 2 or 3 of the first season when the Rangers get their Zords, and Trini learns that the previous Yellow Ranger was male. So it's like, oh, so that's why I don't have a skirt and Kimberly does, and because the computer on the Zord is like, is reacting to the fact that she's female. So the Zhu Rangers existed in the ancient history of the Scytherverse. So it was a little bit just kind of, it's a bit of an Easter egg, and it's not Dragon Zord. It is a literal dragon named Caesar. It's another Easter egg. There are a million Easter eggs in this. I would dare any Sentai and Ranger expert to listen to that episode and try to find all of them. I've got a list, and it's at least 2 pages long.
You know,
Single space.
well, we'll make the power chamber pod at gmail.com. Send in your guesses. I'll shoot them to Nathan. I'll see if you're right.
Yeah, or you can send it to Monster Island Film Vault at gmail.com. That's, or Henshin Power V3 at gmail.com. Those are my podcast emails. Go for it. Leave them in the chat. Leave them in the comments. We'll see how many you can guess. I guarantee you, unless you are like the most super hardcore possible a fan, I don't think anyone's going to catch all of them.
But yeah, this was such an interesting, like, you think of Rito, like, especially from the show and the audio drama, and you definitely embody the spirit of what we saw as kids on TV.
Well, and to go back to the scene you were bringing up, it's like he gives them dragons art. No, that was actually a dramatization of a throwaway line from Mighty Morphin. I believe it was actually in Rito's first appearance, which was the Ninja Quest Part 1. Because he's having a conversation with Rita, and he just randomly brings up, he's like, remember when we were kids and Dad got you a dragon for your birthday and then you burned the castle down with it? And so I just took that and actually made it a thing. Except in this case, it's Rito getting basically the world's deadliest gag gift for Rita on her birthday.
Well, I'd like to think of it as a double, everybody on the Power Chamber knows I like to find meaning that wasn't put into things that I'm just like, but it's right there. Yeah. The first episode that I had you on, Mr. Marchand, the first time we talked, we were discussing Rita's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are talking about an episode that starts with Rita's birthday present.
With Rita's birthday, yeah. Yeah, but like I said, like that was a little piece of lore that when I was looking it up doing research, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that being brought up, because I was just looking for stuff. What can I latch onto and and add into this and kind of canonize it for the Scytherverse?
So did you have, like, writing this, did you have just coming up with the initial outline? Was it, I want to get Rito to where he's got the armor and he's killed Archerina? Or, okay. So that wasn't just like, oh, it's an adventure with Rito. Oh, no, I can put this.
No, I wanted this to be something that, is, it's a genuine origin. It's lore building. Now, there have been if you listen to the Scyther after show that we did for this, there was talk about maybe doing a follow-up that's during the Machine's war with Zed in the ancient history of the Scytherverse, because it's just mentioned in passing in the final monologue for this when Rito is closing out the episode, where he says like, yeah, I got to be a general during the wars, and I fought Gasket some more times, but as hard as I tried, I didn't get to finish what I started with his arms and things like that, and there's some lines about that in the main show during season 3 that give lip service to that. So there's some room to potentially do a follow-up where it would be more like a Clone Wars style kind of, deadly adventure with Rito, although it's more like deadly shenanigans probably for him, but where you could do something like that. But I wanted this to be a genuine origin story.
Certainly, yeah. As soon as he mentioned fighting in the wars, I thought about, you fought in the Clone Wars from New Hope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and again, you can, depending how you want to take it, because Rito is potentially an unreliable narrator. Very potentially an unreliable narrator. I mean, he literally like punks the audience, because there's a scene where he goes on about how he killed his own dad, and then he's like, that's not what happened, and tells him what actually happened. So,
there's a Saturday Night.
Huh?
There's a Saturday Night Live sketch with John Lovitz that reminds me of Rito. I'm not only a member of the Pathological Liars Association, I'm also the president.
Yeah, exactly. So, you could take that, take that with a grain of salt, because he actually says like, oh yeah, and when Lord Ed found out that, I was literally wearing the Machine Princess, I think it scared him a little. you know.
No.
In my head, I like to think that that's actually true, but but it is Lord Zed that we're talking about here.
This is true. And yeah, just the idea of, because again, as kids, we were like, oh, bad guys teaming with other bad guys. Oh, Zed's afraid of Mondo. But with the audio dramas, it's no, they're at war. And
Yeah.
so I like that idea of exploring more of Mondo against Zed. And somehow
Yeah.
Rito finds himself in the...
Yeah, well, I mean, he says he ended up being a general. He was in charge of stuff. He fought in these wars, so there's again some room to play with some potential follow-ups. I will mention that I've kicked around. We have people who are making stuff at Scyther, Shane, who love Rito so much. He's just, even though he's mostly dead, he's still trying to find ways to get Rito to come back. Like, he was already pitching me an absolutely crazy idea earlier today, or maybe it was either late yesterday or this morning, to basically get more Rito into the show. And I'm like, it's just, to quote one of the other characters I play for Scyther, till you're 90. I mean, I'm never gonna live down Rito at this point.
I love that.
Carl's I actually do have an idea in my head that I kind of came up with on the fly during the after show that I think will be an interesting follow-up, but it would be more like a vignette as opposed to a full episode. So I pitched the idea to Carl, and I don't know if it'll actually happen, but I think this would be kind of cool for him to do like a Scyther anthology episode where it's like, about an hour long, like an episode usually is, but it's like, like between like 4 and 6 short stories. They're only like one scene. They're vignettes that take place in different pockets of the Scyther productions. And because I have one in my head that I think would be a fascinating, follow-up to this. I won't say what it is because I don't want to jinx it or anything. I'll tell you off the air. But
okay. Yeah, going back to this, the portraying his original Sentai get up as just, I've been watching a lot of Earth shows, and this is what they call punk.
Because I came prepared. Wait. Is it going to give me, wait, because I'm going to do some show and tell.
To the viewing globe.
Yeah, to the viewing globe, because, for those who don't know, this is officially what Rito looks like. Oh, wait, you got to put it on the screen. I'm too used to being, in charge of, on StreamYard. But yes, this is officially in the Scytherverse what Rito looks like under the armor. But this is Young Noble Jr., played by Kenichi Endo from Kaku Ranger. So Rito's Sentai counterpart is a yokai named Gasha Dokuro. So he's a massive, he's a skeleton monster. And there's a lot of stuff we could get into because I took a lot of Kaku Ranger and put it into this special as well. Well, unlike Rito, Gasha Dokuro had a human form, and that's what he looked like.
That's the only word to describe it: metal.
That's exactly what it is. And I have several. Let me try to bring up the right thing. I have a couple different images of Junior that I can show here.
Look like Rufio.
Huh?
From Peter Pan's Hook. Robin Williams. Hook.
Okay, I had to think about Hook. Yeah. So, and these are from the original show. I have since learned that that Junior has come back in the 30th anniversary special.
What?
Unfortunately, from what I've heard, he doesn't turn into the skeleton, which made me a little sad.
Oh, dang. That. Gonna look that up later.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but Junior's the best bad guy in Kaku Ranger. And he's not even in the whole show.
Well, for a deep dive, you can check out Nathan's episode of the Power Trip, where they looked at Kaku Ranger.
Yeah.
But
Junior may have hijacked the show in true Rito style.
Using Junior as a derogatory nickname for Rito, I love it. Because
when he joins the Assassin's Guild.
Yeah, because I don't know that much about Kaku Ranger, but I knew Junior.
Yeah. Yeah, it was initially done as kind of as a Kaku Ranger reference, a bit of an Easter egg, and then as the script, with each draft of the script, that became even like kind of got more twisted as it went on. When I made the decision to make Haku Monroe the biological father, because that was not in the first draft. It was not in the first draft, but I changed it in a subsequent draft. And like, oh my gosh, him calling him Junior is twisted now.
Now, Haku Monroe, that is a reference that
he's a Kaku Ranger character. Okay. Hold on, I came prepared.
I would say it's as if you knew I would be asking these questions.
Yeah. I show and tell is the teacher in me. Let me. Oh, I skipped him over, but let me zoom in here a little bit. This is him without his mask and helmet. Like I said, he's a Kaku Ranger character. He initially appears to be allied with the yokai, who are the villains, but then as the season goes on, they find out, oh no, he's pretending to be on their side so he can rise through their ranks and basically kill them to get revenge. And spoiler warning for Kaku Ranger, he's the White Ranger's dad.
The White Ranger's dad?
Yeah, because the White Ranger is a girl. If you watch Power Rangers, Kaku Ranger was used for the Alien Rangers, so quote unquote Delphine's Sentai counterpart, that he's her dad.
Right. Okay.
Which created some dramatic tension for the Rangers, because they're like, well, now we got to fight her dad. Why would he betray the humans and all that? And it turns out, nope, he was faking it the whole time. Although he does get turned evil for a while during the show, because he gets found out.
Say he's giving me Goldar vibes just a little bit.
It's funny you bring that up. Now, this is what he looks like when he's got his mask on. So I took that and I just said, okay, instead of that mask, he's wearing the skull mask that Rito gets at the end.
Which, yeah, it fits. And it's a really good dramatic twist that I honestly, the first time I listened to it, I didn't see coming at the end of him being Rito's dad.
Like I said, it wasn't in the first draft of the script. The fight at the end was still there. The whole, calling him Junior and all that was still there, but it was but it was more like Rito's like, well, this is the guy I got stuck with, because of dad. So I have to kill this guy to get out of here. And then once I added that personal connection, it added, I think, a lot of potency to the end there. But here's a funny thing. And here I will reveal one of the we'll say the deepest cut Easter eggs here. And it relates to Haku Monroe. Well, Haku Monroe sort of exists in Power Rangers. Sort of.
So, I'm not familiar with that name, so
they changed the name. They changed the name.
Okay.
But he only exists in Power Rangers as a toy.
Oh my god.
And they changed his name to the Silent Knight with a K.
Silent Knight.
Huh? Yeah. So this is the actual toy. And yeah, so he exists only as a toy, like I said. And there is a line in that scene. It's a narration line where Rito refers to him as the not so silent knight.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Very smooth.
So that's
sir.
so there you go. There you go, Power Ranger experts. I just gave you one of the deepest cut Easter eggs for free. You're welcome.
But yeah, so we're jumping around a little bit. It's basically just as it comes to my mind. Going to the arena, Tritor.
The only true hero in the entire story.
Oh
Everybody
my.
else in this thing is varying shades of villain.
Yeah, having Tritor, for those of you that know, Power Rangers Zeo, King for a Day.
Mm-hmm.
That we will. Kudos to the voice actor for Tritor.
Oh, that was Shane.
That was Shane. That was
Shane Cochran.
perfect. I gotta have him on the show.
Oh, you should. You know, he's he became known to Scyther because he voiced Saba, and then he voiced Chad Yeager, who was one of the, I forget what they were called, but they were one of the government rangers that they were trying to use to fight the Rangers, and now he's the protagonist of Masked Rider, the audio drama. But you know, I speaking of Tritor, again, I came prepared. In case anyone needs a reminder about Tritor.
He is a lizard man who fights with honor.
No, not really. It's confusing. But this is Koichi Sakamoto, by the way, wearing that half suit, whatever. It wasn't his voice. They dubbed him over. But yeah. So yeah, and then here's another one that I found where he's like, this is like the closest he gets to actually fighting in the episode, is doing some weird mental power stuff. Basically, this was a character. They took the Saliguana suit from the Zhu 2 portion of season 1, because that was a monster that was exclusive to Power Rangers. And they just cannibalized the thing and then used it, you know, it had Koichi Sakamoto wear bits of it to play this character. This was another one of the characters who changed a lot from the first draft. In the first draft, he was literally a lizard man. He was basically the Saliguana, but he was Tritor.
Okay.
You know, it was the Tritor character, but he was fully just a lizard man. Well, then shout out to my friend and co-host, Christopher Reiner from Henshin Power V3, who was basically my script editor for this whole thing. And he said, how about you actually have Tritor wear lizard skin? Because that gives Rito his effed up idea to, you know, to turn Archerina into a set of armor. I'm like, I love it. So I went back and I had to rewrite that scene so that, yeah, it was the Horathians, because he's from planet Horath. I made up some culture for him where I said, yeah, they're a warrior culture, and one of their customs is they send their young males out to go kill a monster as like their initiation into, you know, manhood or whatever. And if they succeed in killing a monster, and they can bring it back as a trophy and then wear its hide as, you know, to signify I have killed this thing. That's why Tritor in the episode introduces himself as Tritor, Slayer of the Saliguana. So yes, there are Saliguanas on planet Horath, and Tritor killed one.
Saliguanas. My goodness.
Should I have gotten the picture of the Saliguana for you?
Oh my goodness. No, I remember the Saliguana.
Yeah. It's from the Zhu 2 portion of season 1, which was the last 20 episodes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but I love Tritor. And that turn at the end. We are victorious, my skeletal friend.
When I was editing it, I actually felt bad that he died. I'm like, I feel kind of bad. Because Shane was so good, but it's an arena and somebody's got to die. And, you know, it had to happen, unfortunately. I wish we could get some more Tritor because Shane was so good.
Now the other fighter in the arena,
Altor.
Altor. Were there any other monsters that you thought about throwing in?
Oh, this is Altor. Also from King for a Day.
Why does he look like why can't I think of his name? Time Force.
Frax?
Frax.
I don't know, but he predates Frax.
He's got the neck and just the okay. They might have reverse engineered a costume. Anywho, so this is Altor.
This is Altor. Yep, voiced by my friend Damon Noyes, who's one of my biggest fans. He's been on the Film Vault a lot. I have a Patreon for the Monster Island Film Vault, and he jumped to one of the higher tiers that I tell people, you only have to stay there for like 1 or 2 months to get the perks, because at that level, this is at the level where you can pick something to be covered on the show. Yeah. And he just decided to stay there because he loves me and the show so much. So I basically said, okay, you get at this point, I'm just going to say you're the executive producer. And I found out that he's a mailman by day and an actor by night, which is why I've been having him do voice acting for me on my show. And then I got him onto Scyther because of the Trial of Bruce Wayne show, because I told him, it's like, yeah, I know a guy, who runs Scyther, and he's doing a Batman show where it's Bruce Wayne on trial. And, I know that in the next script, the Riddler's going to show up, and I'm going to audition for the Riddler. And he's like, oh, he sort of told me because the Riddler is one of his favorite Batman villains ever. So I helped him audition. And then basically told Carl's like, hey, if it comes down to me and Damon, just go with Damon because he's so good and he loves the Riddler. And then that's how he got to be part of Scyther. And now he voices Helmut Zemo on the Avengers show. So I'm like, I told Damon, I was like, I'm going to get you in my Rito episode somewhere. And I had him be Altor.
That's so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
My Grinch heart grew 3 sizes today. Welcome to the holiday episode of the Power Chamber.
There you go. Yeah. So, yeah. And like I said, it was part of King for a Day, because when I was outlining this thing, I knew that I wanted Rito, since we can talk about spoilers, the premise of this episode is Rito is the worst kid ever. The world's deadliest delinquent, who does things like capture a live dragon to give to his sister on her birthday just to watch the thing murder a bunch of her crew members before it gets killed. And so his supervillain dad says, well, I'm going to send you to the supervillain equivalent of boarding school. It's an assassin's guild called the Starving Skeletons, which, by the way, Gasho Dokuro, the name of Rito's Sentai counterpart, that is an actual folkloric creature in Japan. It's a yokai, and there's, depending on which story you look at, it's either a horde beast of a bunch of skeletons of peasants and soldiers who died of starvation and weren't given proper burial, so they are angry, or they all combine together into a kaiju-sized skeleton. Which is why when you look at that Gasho Dokuro design, that's why there are multiple faces. That's why half of it's camouflage. All of that. And, but Gasho Dokuro roughly translated means starving skeletons. Hence the name. I reimagined it, so it's like they're called that because it's said that their bloodthirst can't be satisfied. So that's why they're, the starving skeletons. But anyway, I can't remember where I was going with that.
I couldn't tell you. But
now I remember.
Yeah,
So I knew that once he got sent there, that's where he'd get a bunch of his training, and then his first mission after he spent like a year or so training was he's going to be sent to kill Gasket, and that starts their rivalry, and that's going to kill Gasket is where he meets Archerina, and then it leads to the whole thing with Archerina. But I'm like, well, what can I do that would be interesting? And then I remembered the King for a Day, a two-parter from Zio, where Gasket and Archerina presided over an arena and they had monsters fight each other. And I'm like, I can do that. That's a very nice fit. And then I rewatched the episodes. Like, is it actually on a planet or something? No, they never say where it is. But the only planet that gets name dropped is Tridor mentions that he's from planet Horath. So I was just like, okay, it'll just be on Horath. And Archerina and Gasket conquered it. And they found out that they had an arena. And then they just make the Horathians fight for their amusement, on Horath. So it fit very nicely. And like, hey, I could bring Altor in here and he could be one of the gladiators and then Rito can fight him. It'll be great. And I'll bring Tritor in because why not?
Now in terms of writing, because like you said, they don't mention where the arena is. Does it help for our casual viewers here? Does it help in writing when they give you a planet just from the show that you can be like, oh, okay, so this happens on this planet? Or is it more free to make your own?
It's sometimes, but other times I do kind of look at it as, it depends on what I'm attempting to do, what the goal is. If it had been, I might have considered making it a different planet, even if they had mentioned where it was, because I concluded that it just made more sense to have it be on Horath.
Right.
But, the fact that they didn't mention is like, well, that gives me free reign to put it wherever I want. But even if they had mentioned it, I might have tried to monkey around with it just to make it fit. But, you listen to this thing and you listen to Carl's audio drama. He's not 100% slave to what the show did necessarily.
Right.
Because like my version, well, I shouldn't say my version, but the Scytherverse version of Rito is very different from the show version of Rito because the original show version is intended to be a literal skeleton man, where in this one, no, he's a dude in armor, which that was a Carl thing. And I ran with it in this.
Yeah. Now, and it might just be me not fully understand. Can he take the armor off, or is it like permanently bonded?
Oh no, he can take it off. I just don't think we've ever had the opportunity to see him with it off. In my mind, he can actually take it off. He's not living in the thing constantly, but we just never see him with it off.
Okay. The D&D player in me had to know, because there are certain items you can get in the game where it's like, oh, you have magical armor that will protect you extra, but you can't take it off.
If Carl decides to change, to contradict that later, he's Carl, he can do that. But there's nothing that's been said so far in any of the Scyther stuff that says that he has to wear it permanently. We just never see him with it off.
That puts my mental image of the ending of Zio episode 1 in a completely different perspective, because before I'm picturing the Terminator skeleton phase.
But he still has he still has the armor when he's Rito-Nator.
Okay.
He still has it. Because Carl's told me he still has it.
Okay. Nice. So I want to.
Sorry, there's a bug on my computer screen. I'm sorry.
You're good. There are very few scenes that live rent free in my head when it comes to the audio drama. The destruction of Chicago, massive spoilers for this entire series. Tommy's mom's death, and Tommy being converted into the Green Ranger. I can now add the death of Archerina. My God, Mr. Marchand.
Carl has told me the same thing. He's like, it's so different actually hearing it when it was originally just a line of dialogue.
Yeah. It's different reading. There is intense screaming, and then hearing it, and it's like, What are you doing to that robot?
My friend Danny DeManna, who got to make his Scyther debut in this as another character that we can talk about if you want.
Yeah.
But he was there at the premiere on YouTube, and when that scene happened, he wrote, I'm guessing he only read his scene of the script, and he just wrote in the he wrote in the live chat, it's like, Nate, do you need to see a therapist? And I wrote, he didn't survive.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that scene, I was walking in Walmart listening to that, and it got to him approaching Archerina, and I was like, I don't feel good about this. And then hearing it, I'm like, I need an adult. I'm in my 30s. I need an adult. I need a grown up.
Then it had the intended effect.
Oh, it was. That is some brutal imagery.
Rito's a sadistic sociopath. There's no getting around it. He's a sadistic sociopath.
Oh man,
that's why he complains. Which was, there's a piece of world building I did in this that was me latching onto kind of a throwaway line that Carl wrote for Rito in episode 7 of season 3, where he's fighting Gasket, and he just starts complaining. It's like, it's like, I always wondered if you machines felt pain. Your cog boys sure don't, but Archerina, she sure did.
Oh, did
just
she?
to mess with, you could interpret it as him just trying to mess with Gasket, but I took that as opportunity. It's like, that's what the machines do. It's not it's not that the machines don't, the cogs don't, because they're drones, but it's not that the machines don't feel pain. They just don't let people know that they do.
Yeah.
That's why the most you get before that scene is you hear them grunt. Altor grunts when he gets stabbed with his own spear by Rito, and Gasket grunts when he gets his hands chopped off or he gets knocked onto the ground. Rito stabs Archerina in the shoulder to pin her against a wall, and she just grunts. That's all they're acknowledging the pain, but they're not necessarily acting like they are feeling it necessarily, which makes the scream that much more intense. And there's even points where Rito complains, I think at least twice in the narrative. It's like, they don't feel pain. Why don't they feel pain? I need to hear them scream. Basically, he's like, it's like, why don't they scream? I hate it when they don't scream.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so many like other works that I can go and like attach it to. Like those screams I can attach to a bunch of places.
Yeah. And so that was me latching onto something that Carl had established already. And funny enough, the Rebecca Olivia Hodges, she plays Archerina. It's not her. I thought it would be her first big role. She's really been kind of rising up at Scyther. She, in the same weekend that this premiered, she debuted as Jean Grey on X-Men. So she's really awesome. Coming up right now. And because she was Jean had to be recasted, so it ended up going to Rebecca. I thought I was going to give her. I originally heard her on East Haven 8, which was an original show that Carl produced, and that it threw me off because I have an artist friend who did the cover art for this, whose name is Rebecca Hudgens, and it threw me off. I was like, wait, is her middle name Rebecca? She does voice acting for other people besides me? What's going on here? I'm confused. And and then I realized, okay, it's a different person. And she was the first person I went to. Was like, I would like you to be Archerina. And what I told her during the after show, it was because after I knew I was gonna need someone who could do a really good scream, and I heard her scream on East Haven. So it's like, that's why I offered it to you, because I know you can scream.
Oh man.
And but she, funny enough, she made her first big appearance. She had done some bit roles on Power Rangers before this, but she made her first big appearance in Zach Adamson's Gold Ranger origin story as Sprocket, which is really funny because I guess this is kind of a spoiler. I don't know. This version of, let's just say this version of Gasket and Sprocket's closer to the Sentai.
Okay.
Which makes the fact that she voices Gasket's wife a weirdly Freudian.
Sometimes Freud is. Sometimes we need to bring in Sigmund and be like, all right, come on.
Yeah, but I knew that was going to be a big scene because it's like the moment, because it's been well established. Yeah, Rito cut off her head, melted her down, and made her into his armor. I've heard some people compare Rito to Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Wearing people's skin. I mean, Rito even has a line where he threatens to kill. I think I brought this up the last time I was on here. He threatens to kill the Yellow Ranger, when he gets into a fight with her, and says, maybe I'll make a new set of armor out of your skin. So he's already hinting at it. Yeah. And so, you actually, you see it, and you see what leads up to it, the thought process that went into it. Cause he's like, I'm tired of getting pushed around. I'm going to have to fight my way out of here, but there's no way I can stand up to Haku Monroe because he's got the big crazy armor. I need to level the battlefield. Oh wait, my arena buddy. I'm in a weapons forge and I have a robot prisoner. And then he just says, now I know what I got. It cuts away from the narration and he's just, I know what I got to do. Closes the door and you just hear him walking. Like I intentionally just I'm going to make the sound effects do the work here. And you just hear him walking after he closes the door, and Archerina is none the wiser. She's just like, oh, if you come back to free me, you still have time before the cogs get here, and all that. And, then he's like, Rito's going over to the work table and he picks up a buzzsaw and he's making sure she doesn't see it. And he's like, not exactly. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then he comes over and the image of this is just embedded in my head, when I was writing this. So he's got one hand on the wall, got the buzzsaw behind his back, and he's like, oh, you're going to help me fight my way out of here. And she's like, oh, how are we going to do that? And it's like, oh, with what weapons? He just says, you. And she's like, what? And then he gets the buzzsaw out, and then this was one of my favorite lines of the script, and I will admit, it's outside of this context, it would probably come across as a corny Schwarzenegger line, but a corny Schwarzenegger one-liner. But in the context, it's absolutely horrifying. As he says, don't worry, and I intentionally made Rito sound a little flirty when he did this. He says, don't worry your pretty little head, darling. And I'm even picturing him when I'm doing this, he's stroking her metal hair a little bit, he's like, don't worry your pretty little head, darling. Turns on the buzzsaw and says, because you're gonna lose it. And then she begs for her life, and I'm just picturing he's just enjoying it at this point. He's just moving it slowly toward her, and she begs for her life, and then it cuts when the buzzsaw actually touches her metal skin and you hear her scream.
Yeah, I echo Mr. Demana. You speak to a therapist, sir?
I only play a bad guy on TV. But it is probably the most effed up part of the entire script, I will admit.
Yeah, that one's gonna stay with me for a while.
Then again, I did my job.
And so I wanted to keep the episode itself to kind of a concise hour, just because some stuff behind the scenes is happening. But I did want to shout out your amazing cast, particularly Rito's dad, not Vilius. Vilius is awesome. But I want to shout out.
I was going to say, please shout out Tony Fielding playing Vilius, who's been great as Vilius.
Tony Fielding's great. I wanted to shout out. Thomas.
No, Thomas Carter Rochester is Gasket.
Is Gasket?
You're thinking of Jason Rivers.
Who
voiced Haku Monroe, and he's played Goldar on Power Rangers and Professor X on X-Men.
Okay. God, Professor X and Goldar. Wow. Okay. Yeah, just the weight he gives that initial speech.
I was
talking about the
so
importance of it.
psyched. I was so psyched when he did that. I was proud of that speech after I finished writing it. But hearing Jason read it he sells everything, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I was just overjoyed to hear that. Here's the funny thing though. He says Gasho Dokuro wrong. He's the only other character, I think, besides Rito who says that name in the script. He says it wrong, but he said it. He mispronounced it consistently with the same mispronunciation and sold it so well that I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to ask him to redo all of these lines. I had to have him redo one line because he said a word wrong and it changed the meaning of the sentence. So I'm like, no, I need you to redo this one line for me, and he did it. But I didn't really care. It's like he sells it so much. I'm like, it's too good of a performance to for me to make him redo it. Besides, I've looked at, if you look at professional stuff, like actual Hollywood movies, they have characters who say other people's names inconsistently anyway. You watch the original Star Wars, some people say Princess Leia, some people say Princess Leia. No one agrees. Sometimes it's Han, sometimes it's Han. So I let it slide. I didn't care.
Only
I'm
one
probably not even saying Gasho Dokuro 100% correctly anyway. It's a Japanese name.
But yeah, shout out to him. Like, if Scyther ever does a Ninja Turtles, I would love to hear his Shredder.
Oh, he'd be great as Shredder. Actually, some of the sound effects that I was using for like any of the armored characters who are walking, I used it for Haku Menro a couple of times. I used it for Rito once after he gets the armor. It was actually, it actually was listed on the website as being inspired by Shredder, when it's like walking in armor. So I think he'd be great as Shredder. He'd be wonderful as Shredder.
Yeah, that initial speech just irradiates that first scene in the live action movie.
We are a family. I am your father. It's like, another masked supervillain telling all the children that he's their father. Where have I seen this before?
You are here because the outside world rejects you.
Yeah, I was very proud of that. That was an interesting collection of lore building there, because I'm cherry picking a little bit of stuff from Power Rangers, but a lot from Kaku Ranger and reimagining it. And then I threw in some original stuff, just to kind of glue it all together. Because when they talk about the song of Gasho Dokuro, that is actually Junior's character theme from Kaku Ranger, because you said he looks like a punk rocker. He literally, that's why you'll notice in some of the pictures he has a guitar with him. He plays metal music in his human form. And there is a scene that, if you remember from the Power Trip, Michael and I named the craziest moment of Kaku Ranger, because it was Young Noble Jr. literally being the Satanic Panic, because he was using a metal song to summon his demonic yokai dad into the human world. And he flat out says, I'm going to do this as a ritual, and I'm going to call it, Prince Jr. on stage. And he goes into the song. And he's got like the little Doros, it's like his band, and they start going. I looked up several different translations of that song and picked the best translations for different lines and threw them into the script. So whenever they talk about the song of Gasho Dokuro, that they're using his character theme. And during the climactic fight, I play that theme song over the fight. And then right at the end, when Rito is finishing up his closing monologue.
Such a good song.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's another Easter egg. I've been sitting on that for a while. Like, I knew very early on. It's like, I'm playing that during the final fight scene in the script. Like, I have to get that in there, because the whole premise is the leader of the starving skeletons is, and this is where I'm kind of inventing some lore here. The starving skeletons worship a death god named Gasho Dokuro, which is what Rito's armor is modeled after. So again, I'm calling back to the Sentai. And the leader of the starving skeletons wears a skull mask. That's what signifies him as their leader, and they call the mask the face of Gashadokuro. The implication being, if you are the leader of the starving skeletons, you are the avatar of the death god. And the only way that a new leader can be selected for the starving skeletons is by right of combat. Somebody has to fight and defeat the previous wearer of the mask, and then they take the mask after they kill him, and then they become the new leader, the new avatar of Gashadokuro. And the bit about the, they leave a poisonous black rose, like if they get captured, they eat the petals and die, so that no one can figure out. They have to operate in secret, and they also leave it as a gift for their victim, because the idea being that it's like, we're leaving this here so you can give that to Gashadokuro when he comes to collect your soul.
It's the most comic book / anime thing I ever listened to. I just got images of the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie when Matt Murdock's dad is killed and a rose is left on, and young Matt just squeezes it until it bleeds.
Yeah.
I love the imagery of, I've killed you, here's a rose.
well, no, it's actually when Rito did it, he left it. He threw it at Gasket when he's about to do the finishing blow. Yeah, but that's the idea. It's like we're leaving this so that you can give this as a gift to the death god. Because I like the idea. It's like Gashadokuro is like this Reaper figure, and he kind of shows up, and and then it's like, oh, here, I was told to give this to you, and and then it's like, yay, and then he takes their soul to the underworld or whatever.
Yeah, it's a very 2 gold piece to the river Styx.
Yeah, there was some inspiration.
2 pieces of silver, rather.
Yeah. That's why the ancient Greeks would put silver coins on a dead body when they buried it, because they have to odds the fare for the ferryman to take them to Tartarus. Yeah, very similar to that.
But as we wrap up, I did have one last question. Was there any, and you don't have to say specifics, was there any bits or Easter eggs you wanted to put in that Carl was like, sorry, I'm saving that, or sorry that didn't happen? Or
no, actually the notes that I got from Carl were had to do with past continuity that I had kind of forgotten. So like, he didn't really tell me no to anything. So like all the things in there, the Doros being being Vilius's servants, that's a Kaku Ranger reference. Those are the mooks from Kaku Ranger. You let me keep, he didn't really say no to anything other than some continuity notes. That was really about it. And Carl quickly figured out that it's like, yeah, there's a lot of references in this script, which I did on purpose. They're like, there's a gazillion of them. I dare anybody to find them all.
I'm saying, guys, the powerchamberpod@gmail.com if you want to submit your guesses, or any of Nathan's Henshin Power V3
at gmail.com and Monster Island Film Vault at gmail.com. Yeah.
Yes.
I dare you.
Send in your guesses.
Yeah. Or you could email me directly, Nathan.Marchand1, the number 1 at gmail.com. That's go ahead.
First to guess correctly, the Power Chamber will give you a note prize.
If you can get all of them, you have to give me the complete list, and it's got to all match up
in chronological
I don't know what
order.
They are, but good luck finding all of them. But I want to finish shouting out the cast really quick, because you started that. So obviously Jeannie McGinnis is back in this, being absolutely wonderful as Rita. What really kind of freaked me out a little bit is it dawned on me, because I originally came to Scyther as as a fan, and now I actually got to make something in this. And it dawned on me that while I was editing, and this was the fanboy in me talking, was like, I may have just written the last lines that both Jeannie and Tony are ever going to say as their characters. Because both Rita and Villius don't make it out of season 3. Spoiler warning. In fact, Jeannie, when she sent me her audio, actually said, I literally just recorded Rita's death scene last night, and here I am again. And and Tony, like I said, Villius didn't make it. And then we've talked about Jason. I talked about Danny DeManna. I should mention who he's playing, because unlike Carl, I actually got Monsters of the Week from past Ranger shows in this. Altor is one. The other one, and this was a suggestion from Chris Reiner, because in my initial draft, why is it giving me grief? In my initial draft, in this scene, it wasn't this character. Really? It's being lame. Why is it being lame? My browser is being stupid. But originally, I was just going to have Rito get spooked by a cog during the arena scene when he gets found out before he can actually go assassinate the machine, go assassinate Gasket. It was originally he was just going to get spooked by a cog, and that's how he would get caught. But I didn't like it. I was just not happy with that. And then like I said, Chris Reiner, now I got it to work, suggested I use this guy. You got to put it up on the screen.
Drum roll.
Borax. Who's from an episode called Do You Know Me? From Zeo. He's a bounty hunter. He's not part of the Machine Empire. He's like, yeah, use the bounty hunter. I was like, oh, the bounty hunter? I barely remembered it, and I had to watch. I was like, oh, yeah, that guy. Then I watched the episode again. And then other members of his race, the Variks, show up again in the episode after that. So I like, you know what? I will use him. So I put him in there, and the scene worked so much better when it was this guy catching him and then saying like, yeah, I was hired by your father to kill you. So it plays into the main plot pretty well, I thought. Originally, I was going to have Michael, my co-host from Power Trip, here's another picture, play this character. I even sold it to him by saying like, yeah, you get to abuse Rito. And, he was, pretty set on doing it, but then life happened and it just didn't pan out. And then he suggested I get our mutual friend, Danny, who's the author and creator of the Godzilla Novelization Project. And he's done a lot of voice work for me, and he's done it in some other places as well. He suggests I have Danny do it, and Danny hit it out of the park. He kind of steals the show when he comes in there. So yes. I was very happy with how that turned out. So I wanted to make sure, he got mentioned. And we talked about Shane Cochran for Tritor, Damon. I think we got everybody. Oh, and I will say for the crowd chants, we talked about that before, but you're in that mix.
I am.
So you were technically an angry Harathian and an assassin, technically.
Love it.
You were one of the starving skeletons.
I will say it was rather fun because I'm recording it and my wife is just sitting like right on the other side of the microphone. And she gives me a look as I'm just like, Trito Junior. Trito. Small pause, and I'm like, I'm getting into character. 1 sec. Trito Junior.
Give me a second. I'm an angry Harathian. I am cheering for the gladiators that I like.
Yes.
I think that's all of my show and tell. Yeah, basically. I did have a picture of Archerina in case anyone wondered what Archerina looked like.
Well, let's show Archerina.
Yeah. Here you go. Crazy pink fembot. It's one of the wilder Sentai designs from the era.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
She's got like garters and pointless knee pads and and a a bust. My word, a bust. And it's you don't see it from this angle, but large birthing hips. I just some of the concept art I found for Archerina, her Multi-Wa was her Sentai counterpart's name. Good Lord, the birthing hips. And in the concept art. Whew.
Oh.
I think we understand why Gasket liked her.
And on that note, thank you once again, Mr. Marchand, for joining me here in the Power Chamber. I love Origins Rito Bandora. I love it. There's so much that it feels like Rito. Like, it's not so much just here's a little side story with the Power Rangers. It's no, Rito is telling this story, and it feels like a Rito adventure.
A Rito adventure, Rito misadventure, deadly shenanigans.
Just deadly shenanigans. I like it.
Deadly shenanigans. That sounds like the title of a Batman story, actually.
But as Jake Hambrick in the chat has said, Nathan, if there's any more shameless self-promotion.
Shameless self-promotion. I think I've mentioned a lot of stuff in here already, but go check out the Monster Island Film Vault website. It's monsterislandfilmvault.com. Join the Patreon if you want to for as little as $3 a month. And what else? Check out my author website, nathanjsmarchand.com. Check out the Scyther stuff. I'm a contributing writer to Kaiju United, so check out Kaiju United, the best kaiju website on the internet. And read my books. I've got about 10, 12 books to my name. Some of them are anthologies, some of them are full-length novels and all that. I'm always working on something. Origins Rito Bandora is just one of the many things that I work on. I've got a hankering to get back to some of my book writing, I gotta admit, now that I'm done with this. Unless, people are now asking me, like some of the people are like, you should write more scripts for Scyther. I'm like, slow down a little bit, okay?
Right.
Somebody like Thomas was telling me after the after show, because we were talking about things like, what other Marvel characters can show up in the Scyther Marvel verse. And he mentioned that he had been working on a Rocket Raccoon voice, and I'm like, we should have the Guardians of the Galaxy show up. And then they're like, why don't you write it, Nate? I'm like, oh, right. He's like, you could be Star-Lord. I'm like, oh, good Lord, guys.
It's the old conundrum of, you have a camera? You should film my wedding. No, I point the camera. I didn't say I was good at it.
Yeah. But, like I said, it was an interesting experience because I basically did everything. There were some parts where Carl did a little bit of additional editing for me. And by that, I mean, I sent him the Machine Empire lines and said, run it through your vocoder so I know it sounds correct. So it sounds consistent. Because he and I use different editing software, or else I would have just done the same process he did. But I wanted to make sure it was consistent. But other than that, I managed everything. I edited it. I wrote it. I performed in it. I directed the other actors. And that's why I said I Mel Gibson this crap. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, this is clearly a labor of love. And I just want to say to you, sir, good job. Because this was a really good story. And it inspired me to work on other things, which we have to get back into the R&D department here in the Power Chamber.
Yeah. And I will say this. I may get a little sentimental, I'm not sappy, but I'm definitely sentimental. Hearing that, something that I have done, something I have created, not only was enjoyed by people in the audience, but it inspired them to work on their own creative work, whatever that is, write their own story, whatever, make art, whatever of some kind. That warms my heart because it's I'm not just entertaining somebody, I'm inspiring them to pursue their own creativity or otherwise engage with it. They're not just consuming it. And that is more satisfying to me than anything else I could get out of this.
Well, sir, you are an inspiration. You are a visionary. You're creative. You are not to get like any type of way about it. You are doing the good work of bringing creativity into the world and having it spark something off in someone else. And that's how we get world peace, man. Is if everyone just inspires everybody. Yeah, there's a couple of nuts involved, but if the majority is peaceful.
Me writing a story about a sadistic sociopath cutting a robot's head off is going to bring about world peace.
Yep.
This is the weirdest path to world peace I've ever seen. Is there a conference that can go on forever and some Power Rangers are just going to be there hanging out the whole time?
Possibly. All I'm saying, guys, is some people achieve world peace and they drop the ball. But when it comes to Nathan's script,
we've got to get those balls. Okay, I'll do it. No, Adam, wait.
You've been sitting on that joke for 10 minutes, haven't you?
So waiting. But thank you so much for joining me once again on the Power Chamber live on YouTube. We'll get to the end of season 2 soon, by the end of the year. Promise, because I want season 2 done before April, because that's the 30th anniversary of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Yes. I'm getting an invitation, aren't I?
Of course you're getting an invitation. Shane's getting an invitation because of you. Because
I didn't play Ivanhoe.
I'm going to have both of you on just to go, where's my autograph book?
I think that's my favorite Ivanhoe's line. Where's my autograph book?
That foul stench must be teenagers. But for he Mel Gibson this crap for Mr. Nathan Marchand, I am Rob Buck, the Hey Buddy Black Ranger. Thank you all for joining us here on the YouTube channel. Now go create art, inspire others, and may the power protect you.
The Power Chamber is a proud member of the Hey Buddy Podcast Network. Please visit HeyBuddy.com to find links to all of our social media, as well as our official merchandise store, HeyBuddy.myspreadshop.com. Remember, that's Hey with a YYY. The Power Chamber has no affiliation with Hasbro or Saban Entertainment. All clips belong to their respective owners.